Welcome to Linda's Corner, where we bring more hope, healing, and happiness to the world. My name is Linda Bjork, and today we're going to be talking about treating autoimmune disease. I'm delighted to welcome Risa Groux. Risa is a functional nutritionist, certified autoimmune coach, and the creator of an online course to achieve optimal thyroid health. Risa has been featured on Good Day LA, Hallmark Network's Home and Family, and Good Morning America. You can reach Risa at her website, risagrouxnutrition.com, and I'll include that link in the show notes. Welcome, Risa. I'm so glad that you could join with me today.
Oh, thank you, Linda. Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
Thank you for showing up. I am so excited to be talking about this because autoimmune diseases are so dang frustrating. It's when your body is attacking you. It's like you're your own enemy. And that is frustrating because it feels so hard to win. So when we're talking about the ability to reverse this, it is so thrilling and hopeful. And I am so excited to hear your story. And I know that part of it is reversing Hashimoto's, which is especially exciting to me because my daughter has that. And so to be able to learn what do we do matters to me personally. So can we start with your story?
Yeah. Thank you for the introduction. I was basically brought up in a house with a lot of bad food relationship. I just didn't have a good relationship with food because everybody in my house was on a diet trying to lose, 5 pounds. So nobody was particularly heavy, but it was just this chronic deprivation, starvation, or let's, open the floodgates. And it was just a lot of confusion for me. And, I always thought that they said that these foods were bad, but I always thought the bad foods tasted pretty good to me. So I was very confused, right? And then, so what did I do? Of course, in high school, I started going on every single diet. Every book would come out and I would go on the diet and I'm trying to lose my 2 pounds. And it just was this really bad relationship with food until I finally said, I've had enough. And I'm using food as my fuel source. And I really studied nutrition pretty hardcore. I got married and had no problem conceiving our first child. It was absolutely not a problem. We thought about it, did it, done. And then easy pregnancy. But when I was trying to conceive my second, I really had a very, very hard time. I could not get pregnant. And if I did, I would lose the baby very early on. It was very, very discouraging. And I get it. I get why the pain and suffering that people have over infertility issues. So I ended up finally acquiescing and going to see a fertility specialist. And he did some labs and he threw a script over to the other side of the desk and said, you've got an underachieving thyroid. Here's a script. You're going to take this and off we go. And I said to him, well, how long do I take it for? And he said, every day. And I said, no, for how long? And he said, oh, for the rest of your life. And I left that point with 2 major burning questions. One is, why is it that my thyroid is an underachiever? Why is it making this hormone that it was actually born to produce? And the second question I had was, why is the doctor not even wondering why? He's not trying to fix it, but he's just giving me the synthetic hormone to mimic what my body should be producing. I was like, wait a second, shouldn't we fix this? I just didn't understand that. So that really started me on my way. I realized that I had this gene mutation that's extremely common called MTHFR. And lo and behold, it causes infertility miscarriages. So I got the right B vitamin in methylcobalamin form that I could absorb it. And next thing you know, I got pregnant, carried the pregnancy easy, had a great pregnancy. Yeah, years later, I was not feeling quite myself. I went to a naturopathic doctor who diagnosed me with Hashimoto's. And as you said, Hashimoto's is basically an autoimmune disease, which is essentially a fire in the basement of inflammation, right? Where I've got a raging fire in the basement. We've created all these antibodies, and eventually those antibodies are going to find a place to park, right? It's going to find a gland, a tissue, an organ, or cell in which to park itself, right? Which to attack. And in the case of Hashimoto's, it was my thyroid. So at that point, I was like, whoa, this train is really off the track. We need to get this figured out, right? I got to reverse this. We got to figure out, why is this happening? And so I didn't have any help from any practitioners at that time. And so I tried to find a list of root causes of what could be causing this autoimmunity to take place. And I couldn't find anything. This is many years ago, but there was just nothing available that I could find on root causes of autoimmunity. So I created my own. I put it in my book, Food Frame, and each root cause that I found, of course, I had it, right? Whether it was, heavy metal toxicity, or I had a virus, or whatever it was that I had, right? MTHFR being one of them. And so I went through the course of all of those root causes, reversed them or treated them, and then was able to eventually reverse my own Hashimoto's. And now I do not have any antibodies attacking my thyroid nor other organs in my body.
What a beautiful and amazing story. And it tells us not only what you have been through, but it tells us a lot about you and who you are. That when something comes and this information comes, rather than just accepting it, you get curious about it.
Yes.
You are willing to ask some questions and say, I wonder why. I'm not satisfied with this answer. So I want to see if there's something better. And I think that that is kind of the first step in really being able to take control of your own health and well-being. And that is to get curious. So how beautiful that you were able to find some solutions, and that the first solution with figuring out, I would love to know, did you take a test? How did you know that you had that genetic mutation?
I took a test. Yeah, I did a lot of research and found that having this MTHFR gene mutation, which is super common, 90% of the population has it. I test everybody for it. You either get it from mom or dad or both. It's a genetic test, so it doesn't change. It's what your genes are. And it means that you don't methylize or process either your B12 and or your folate. So you have to first test to find out which one you have. If you have both, if you have them from both parents or one from one and one from another, you just should know how much, what your alleles look like, and then proceed accordingly. Because if we don't take these B vitamins in proper form, and we can't absorb them through food because we just don't, we have the gene mutation that doesn't permit us to process it through food, then we typically see our homocysteine, which is our inflammation marker, one of our inflammation markers that can lead to cardiovascular disease, dementia, macular degeneration. We tend to see that elevate. And it's really just a simple B vitamin that we need to decrease that, normalize it. We also see the size of our red blood cells, or MCV. We see that tend to increase. So it's really important to look and not guess, right? Test and not guess, and find out what you do have and what is causing this cascade of inflammation. And I just was on just met with a patient just right before you and I hopped on, who was so discouraged, was at the doctor, and they said, oh yeah, your antibodies, you're never going to be able to reverse those, and you're not sick enough for me to give you a pill yet, so come back when you're really sick. That's what the doctor said to her.
Wow, ouch. Okay, I did not love that at all. So I would like to ask a follow-up question on that testing. What kind of test? Where do we get it? Is this something that if we go onto your website, you can direct us there?
Sure.
I love the idea of let's test and not guess, because I think sometimes when we take the burden of our health on ourselves, we do a lot of guessing rather than doing the proper testing. And so I think we'll get results faster if we have a test and we're able to get it. And isn't it interesting that it's not just a B vitamin, but it has to be in the correct form? And when you
Right.
talk about a genetic mutation and then say 90% have it, I mean, it almost sounds like the other 10% is the mutation, and we're the norm if that's what it really is. Okay, so I know I kind of sped a bunch of things. Pause. The test, can someone get that direction if they go to your website?
Yes, I mean, you can't order it on my website, but you can call our office and we can order it for you. Absolutely. You can ask for your doctor to get it in a regular blood draw. A lot of doctors don't even know what this is. A lot of
What is this test called?
it's called MTHFR. Think of what you would say to somebody who cuts you off on the freeway. A good way to remember it. A lot of people say that's the gene, but I test everybody for it who I work with, right? So the statistics are 50 to 90%, but I can
Oh,
tell you
okay.
that it is rare when I find somebody who doesn't have it. Now, it could
Fascinating.
just be one allele, right? It could be from one parent, it could be two, it could be three, it could be four. So there's different variations, and you would need to know. There's other symptoms of MTHFR like ADD, ADHD, autism, bipolar, schizophrenia, headaches, migraines, infertility, miscarriages. I talked about that, depression, anxiety, headaches, and migraines. So those are very typical signs. Now, I didn't have any of those symptoms at all. And I only have one allele from one parent. I don't know which one, but I could guess because I've tested all my family now, and it was for folate, right, for B9. So it was not the B12 one. So for B12 people, I mean, it wouldn't be good to be a vegan anyway because you're not getting it from food sources to begin with, but definitely very important to have it. My kids both have it, and most people have it. So, and then they'll pass it on to their kids. And if they procreate with somebody who has it, we just keep going. And it's not a horrible thing. You just need to know so that you can nurture your body with the proper nutrients so that we kind of prevent, a train wreck.
Awesome. And is this a blood test? Is this a hair test?
It's a
What are we
blood
doing?
test, but it also can be a spit test. We have different ways that we test just because it's different pricing. But all of them are valid. If you do a 23andMe, you most likely have it on that test. You have to interpret it because, they're not made to be read. But if you do an interpretation like a genetic genie that you put it in, it should be able to tell you if you have MTHFR gene mutation. But I do a lot of genetic testing, and it's usually on every genetic panel.
Fascinating. Okay, so the first step here is to get curious, and the next step is to take some tests and to be able to get some specific information. What's going to work for me? What's going to work for my body? What is my body missing that it needs in order to be healthy, in order to move forward? And it sounds like from just stopping there, you had incredible success in being able to conceive another child, which when you are struggling to have a child, that is so painful, so emotionally drying. It's hard. It's a life or death situation. It's not the end of life. It's trying to bring the beginning of a life, and it's a big deal. So I am so grateful that such a complex, deep, soul-searching problem can have a simple solution. And I think that is just beautiful. So now, is it okay if we also talk about nutrition? I loved when you shared your
Sure.
story and you talked about how people were their relationship with food wasn't healthy. And whatever is modeled, we tend to repeat that cycle unless we stop and get curious and choose to make another choice. And it sounds like everyone was really quite slim. I mean, if you're worried about 5 pounds and 2 pounds, it's not necessary. I wonder if it happened a level above where it's like, well, this is what you do. You when you're an adult, you hate food and food hates you, and we live on diets and we are miserable, and that's what's expected. So I don't love that model. So let's talk about how to make it be not that so that we can love our food, have our food love us, and live joyfully.
I think back in the day when my grandmother was raising my mother, they didn't have the information that we have now. They didn't have the resources we have now. So in those days, I mean, to their credit, they didn't snack. They didn't have coffee shops on every corner that they could get, processed foods and sugar and, in liquid form and in solid form. But they also were just not informed about what food was. Their food was a lot less filled with chemicals as well. And I think food wasn't such a center, it wasn't an activity the way it is now. When I grew up, we would go out to dinner maybe once a week. That was it. It wasn't something that we were just always doing. I would never think to go out for a drink, like whether it's an iced tea or a matcha or a coffee or a hot tea or an alcohol beverage, I mean, you just didn't go out and consume the way we consume now, right? We get a drink before we go to a meeting, or we get a drink while we're walking down the street. We just didn't have that. You drank some water when you were at home, and then off you went, right? You might have a little orange juice in the morning, or your tea or your coffee or whatever, but it it wasn't a destination to go and get your breakfast, right? And who would go out for breakfast, right? That was like an occasional Sunday activity. So we've really changed our accessibility to food. Now Instagram has made it so we take pictures of our food, and food becomes famous, right? It's this crazy relationship we have with food. And we have way more processed foods. I mean, if you look at a supermarket in our country, an average supermarket, I don't know, maybe we have like two double-sided aisles of frozen food, two long double-sided aisles, right? We've got the pizza and the ice cream and the fruit and the preparation, the prepared foods, whether it's cheesecake or chicken a la orange or whatever it is, right? We've got all these choices of frozen foods. Well, if you go to Europe, I was in Italy last summer, and they had like 3 frozen pizzas. They had maybe 5 different ice creams. The entire frozen section of the market was 5 doors. Their chip aisle was like 2 little, like tiny. It was what we would call an end cap here, right? That was their chip selection. They are just not, and their beef and their cheeses and all their fresh food was the majority of the store. Or produce and all that stuff. Here in America, you walk down the aisle, not just the frozen food aisle, but I went to go grab something at the market a couple of months ago, and I had to run down this aisle that I never really go down, and I could not believe how many Oreos we have, right? We have double stuffed, we have single, we have mini, we have dipped in this, we have this color for this holiday, we have, bites, and we have extra large, and it just was insane to me. Right? How many chips do we need? And how many flavors of chips? It's just, we are really now more of a processed food nation. And the sad reality is that the current statistic is the FDA has approved 86,000 chemicals for us to use. 86,000 chemicals, way more than any other country on this planet. So well over 3,000 of which we can eat, right? But the rest of them are additives, all these additives. The additive business and preservatives are over $4 billion industry in our country, right? So right now there's a huge army going into Kellogg's, I think actually today, to try and get the dyes, the colorings out of some of these cereals that don't exist in other countries. Europe does not let dyes in their food, but we do here in America, and it doesn't do well for people, right? This is an artificial coloring that we do not need in our system. And so, the rest of them we're breathing in, right? The candles, the Febreze plugins, the perfumes, the shampoos, the conditioners, the nail polish, the hair dyes, whatever it is we're putting on our face. We still have talc and powder, which is crazy, right? Because we know that can cause cancer. And then, what are we cleaning our house with, right? So all of these chemicals, we're unfortunately approved about 2,000 to 6,000 a year. And regardless of who's in the White House, and most of them aren't even tested. So it's big business for us, right? And we are the guinea pigs, and we are just exposed to all these chemicals. Our body does not know what to do with them. And so what I say is, our liver is really, they're the guard gate, right? So when you drive up to a community that is a guard gated community, there's 2 lanes. There's the lane for the residents, and they have a transponder, and they just go right through, right? That's the real food that your body is born to function, right? To use as fuel and to process. So you're going to eat things from the earth that are either crawling from the ground or spreading from the earth, and they're going to go through your system, no problem. Then we have the visitor lane, where you have to stop, you have to talk to the guard, you have to get a pass, you have to get your license looked at, they write down your plate, they ask you all these questions, who are you going, da, da, da. And these are foods that I say are chemicals, right? These are foreign agents that come into the body. The body doesn't know what to do with them. They have to convert them into an enzyme so that they can be processed through the system. So there's a lot of work that your liver has to do. And if you go to a community and there's a really long line of guests or visitors that are waiting to get their pass, that's what your liver looks like. It's just backed up, and it takes time for that guard to get to every single one of those visitors. It takes a long time for our liver to convert these foreign agents into an enzyme to process through the system. And so what happens to the liver? It gets congested. right? It gets sluggish. And when the liver gets congested and sluggish or fatty, the whole system goes down, right? Because the liver is the key to the castle. So it just impairs the entire system. So that's why these chemicals are so important to decrease in your food and in your cleaning supplies and your beauty supplies, whatever it is that you're getting them in from. It's critically important that you are aware of these chemicals and decrease your toxic load.
Wow. That was a beautiful image that you made it. You made it simple to be able to visualize and to be able to understand how our body is able to process things that it recognizes, but it can't those that it doesn't. And now my image is going back to the grocery store and how we have aisles and aisles of food-like substances that our body doesn't know what to do with. And if that's all we're eating, it's almost like in this community, there are no residents. They're only guests. And the poor liver would just be so overworked. And just what happens when our liver is super, super overworked? I mean, I would imagine this backup line, is it just going elsewhere? Are we just getting poisoned? Are we just filled with toxins?
Yes, the answer is yes. What toxins live in fat cells and fat tissues. And what it does is it really slows down your body. It de-optimizes your functioning. So that's why I'm a big fan of detoxing the right way, of course. And when you detox, you will lose weight, but it's not a weight loss system. I always say this to people, my 14-day detox, which I start everybody on, we're just trying to level the playing field, clean out, we'll store excess estrogens in our liver. I mean, we store a lot in our liver and it needs help getting flushed out. Weight loss is a side effect of wellness, and I focus on wellness. And people lose weight with me all the time. I mean, we lose thousands of pounds a year with the people I work with, but it's all a side effect of wellness. I'm not putting anybody on a diet of restriction, right? Good food, bad food. I'm not doing that. I say people should be eating according to their current health status and to optimize their health.
According to our current health status. So, can you expound on that a little bit? What do you mean?
Yeah, so when I first started my practice decades ago, I kind of put everybody on the same anti-inflammatory protocol because it's anti-inflammatory. But I noticed that some people were really, really thriving and some people weren't, right? It's the same as when we get that new book that comes out and diet philosophy book, right? And so your neighbors lost 42 pounds, you tried it, you didn't feel well, you didn't lose anything. So I realized that it's not a one size fits all. We all have different genetics. We all have different microbiomes and we all have a different environment, right? We're having different toxic load. We might live next to a steel plant, or we might, live in the country and within, in the mountains with good air. It all depends. Everything depends individually. But what I started to realize many, many years ago is that people started to thrive when I gave them a food program, an eating lifestyle that was designed for their current health status. So, for example, if you have autoimmunity, right? If we have Hashimoto's, if you have some sort of antibody production, whether it's rheumatoid arthritis or fibromyalgia or Sjogren's, it doesn't matter. If you have antibody production, I'm going to suggest let's give you a fire hose, right? The doctor may give you a squirt gun or may not. They might wait till you're really in full-blown disease until they give you a squirt gun, but I'm going to give you a fire hose, right? Let's get this fire out. And so I'm going to do that through food that you're going to eat. I'm going to give you my Fab Five supplements that are going to decrease your inflammation, which is all nutrition anyway. And so I'm going to recommend the AIP protocol for you, the autoimmune protocol. And it's a 30 to 90-day protocol. And after that, I'll make some recommendations on what would best suit you for maintenance. Let's say you have some SIBO, small intestinal bacteria overgrowth, you have chronic bloating, maybe some diarrhea, maybe some constipation, or alternating of each, and you've been diagnosed with IBS. I'm going to give you a low FODMAP protocol, and that is going to address that bacteria that parked itself in the small intestines rather than the large intestines. And so that bacteria is going to cause major bloating for you. So let's kill that bacteria through food. I would also recommend supplements, but food for sure is going to either help kill that or it's going to help proliferate it. So what you eat matters. And then let's say you have blood sugar dysregulation. You've been just diagnosed with prediabetes or diabetes. If you are fit the criteria, not everybody does, but if you fit the criteria, let's say you have your gallbladder, you don't have any fat malabsorption, I'm going to recommend keto for you because that is going to be most effective on decreasing your blood sugars. So I just feel that we should all be eating according to our current health status. Now, if we reverse your diabetes or reverse your Hashimoto's or your antibodies, then I'm going to say, okay, let's look at what the other alternatives are as far as maintenance is concerned. If there's still holes in the bolt, we'll take a look at that until you become homeostasis, till you have equilibrium, until you're in a state of balance. Then I'm going to recommend, maintenance. But other than that, I'm going to keep recommending an eating program that is going to help support reverse whatever your current health status is.
Wow, that is so beautiful on so many levels. I love that you're bringing up that it is not a one size fits all. It's not the latest fad. And okay, now we're all going to do this. Okay, now we're all going to do that. And I love the example that you gave how when the newest diet, whatever comes out, and this person loses weight and this person has uh, no effect. That doesn't do anything for him. And so, in order for you to be able to figure out what they do, is the initial intake doing that testing and say, okay, let's see where you are. Let's see what you need. And now we're going to, oh, you fit in this category. We need you over here. This fits over here. And I also love that when you talked about 30 to 90 days, I appreciate when something has an end, if possible. You've mentioned before, like when you show up with Hashimoto's and they say, okay, you need to take this drug forever. It feels discouraging. So if I feel like, okay, I need to make some changes in my life, some lifestyle changes, and it might not be what I'm used to, I have to shop in a different section of the store. I have to go to that outside part where they have like fruits and vegetables and stuff like that, rather than in those center aisles where I have my pre-made food in my boxes or my cans or in the freezer section. So if it feels like, okay, I can do this that's maybe a little more strict for a little while, and then I can have some more flexibility, I would feel more hopeful. Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure. And that's why I created Food Frame, because Food Frame is my methodology for how I figured out how people should be eating. Because if it's one size fits all, then I'm just going to put a little graph on my front door in my office, and you're in L3 and I'm at the beach, right? It just doesn't work that way. We have different, do we have a lot of inflammation? Do we need iron? Do we have, is our thyroid dysregulated? That affects so many systems in the body. So we need to look at that to find out where you are and then have all the information, right? I'm not really good at playing darts with the lights off and I cannot see the target, right? I leave that to chemical medicine. I want to see everything that's going on so we can best help you, right? And it's critically important. We're all different individuals. Genetics load the gun, your environment and lifestyle pull the trigger.
Mm.
So it doesn't mean that because you have this genetic disposition for MTHFR or antibodies, autoimmunity, it doesn't mean that you actually have to do that, but you just have to know that you have this and to make a conscious effort to creating a different lifestyle and eating habits to make a left instead of going straight, right, into that to that potential inevitability. And you can avoid all these consequences that result as, because of your lifestyle choices.
I loved the analogy of loading the gun and pulling the trigger, because there was a time when having something that was genetic was like a death sentence. It's like there's nothing you can do about it. This is the cards you were dealt, so sucks to be you, kind of a thing. And as we're realizing now, that's not it at all. It is there, it is possible, but it doesn't mean you have to deal with those consequences. Like you said, we can make a left turn. We don't
Right.
have to necessarily follow that path. Oh my gosh, this has been so enlightening and amazing. Is there anything else you want to make sure that we cover before we close today?
Oh, we could talk forever, but
I know
yeah. Yeah.
and love it.
Yeah, I would say take responsibility for your health and get the right information. If you feel that something's off in your body, something's off in your body. So pursue it. I'm a digger. I am going to I want to know why. If you don't, you're just going to have a train wreck that's going to unfold. It may unfold slowly, but it's going to unfold. So what we eat matters, and make sure you get the information you need.
That is so useful. And we had talked earlier about maybe people could get a discount if they came to your website and started on your the detox code.
Yeah, so on my RGN Detox, I'm happy to offer your listeners 10% off with the code inspiration number 10, 10% off the detox. It's awesome. People feel amazing. It's 14 days. It's not a starvation program. You're eating, but you're eating clean foods from the farm, not the factory. Protein, fat, and fiber is what I always encourage everybody to eat. And you're having 2 collagen shakes a day, again, with protein, fat, and fiber. I have them almost every single day myself. I detox all the time, but you're eating real food. It's not a starvation. You eat when you're hungry, not when you're not, but you're going to clean out your system from all these toxins. And so many people, their symptoms go away with just that. So when I work with people, I put them on the detox right off the bat. And while we're getting their test results in after they finish the detox, I'll be able to see what is left. Maybe some of their symptoms are gone, maybe all of their symptoms are gone, or maybe none of them are gone. But usually we definitely see progress. And if we don't, or we see very little, then I know. Then it tells me I know what to look for and what not to look for. So it's really, really helpful. And you can start eating clean and feeling good. Your energy should be better, all that stuff. So yeah, on my website is also my thyroid course that people can take. I put everything I needed to ever know on thyroid, how to read labs, what markers to look for, how, what are optimal markers, what to eat, what not to eat, what to take, supplement wise, what not to take. And that is for anybody with autoimmunity or just hypo and hyper, as well as thyroidectomy. So it's a really comprehensive course I'm very proud of, called Achieving Optimal Thyroid Health. I also have my book, Food Frame. Diet is a 4-letter word that has been endorsed by Dr. Stephen Gundry, Dr. Josh Axe, Suzanne Summers, the late Suzanne Summers, and JJ Virgin. And then I have my detoxes and all my product. All my product is gluten-free, dairy-free, soy-free, corn-free, crap-free. So I'm super picky about what goes into my body. It's all third-party tested. And yeah, tons of recipes. You can take the Food Frame quiz on the website. It's only 12 questions, and you'll find out which food frame is best for you.
Wow, that just sounds like a wealth of information. There is a treasure out there. I'm so excited to check that out. Risa, thank you so much for visiting with me today. This has been amazing.
Thank you for having me, Linda. I've enjoyed it myself.
In closing, I'd like to share a quote by Hippocrates. He said, "Let thy food be thy medicine, and medicine be thy food." Today, I invite our listeners to heal our bodies through eating good food. See you next time on Linda's Corner. Thanks for listening. Please share and subscribe to help us reach new listeners. And if you'd like to heal your life from the inside out, there is a free video series at hopeforhealingfoundation.org. Just click on the free stuff tab. I also invite you to grab a copy of one of my books, like Crushed, A Journey Through Depression, and You Got This, an action plan to calm fear, anxiety, worry, and stress. See you next time on Linda's Corner.